first up, I'm sure many of you will know Lindsey, or at least will have read a lot of her opinion pieces or seen her speak. Lindsey's one of our real, I guess, sort of spokeswomen of the industry, CEO of Thinkbox, which I have to make sure that I get it right, Lindsey, the marketing body for commercial TV. So Lindsey is a real, really at the leading edge of what our industry is all about. She's a netball player. She's a wackle stalwart. So big hand for Lindsey Clay.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. I'm going to appear to be hiding behind this podium because I haven't got a clip for my mic pack, so otherwise I have to wander around with it. But thank you for having me today to let me talk about my favourite hobby horse, which is marketing to women versus women in marketing. Well, really, it's about how women in our industry are represented. That's what my personal hobby horse is, so I've contorted the subject around so that I get to talk about that, haha. So, but it is relevant, and you'll see why, because the two things are very much connected. The position of women in the industry is very much connected to how we portray women in advertising and how we market to women as well. So this is what I'm going to talk about representation, look at it a little bit in advertising, and then talk a little bit about why it matters generally. So I don't know how many of you read this article. It was at the beginning of the year. I was completely thrilled that they would even put an article in campaign called The Year Ahead for Women. So it felt like a real breakthrough moment for me. And just to recap on some of the figures in case you didn't read it, women make up, of course, 50% of the industry, and now 25.6% of the most senior positions. So that's chairs, managing directors, chief execs of agencies. This is the advertising industry. It's not counting the marketing community as well. But I would probably suggest the marketing community is better generally than the advertising industry. But I think most importantly for me, we make up 37.1% of board positions. And the reason that 37.1% is really significant is because generally 30% is the level at which critical mass occurs in a group setting. So if you can get 30% of anything, it feels normal. It feels like it's just part of the state. It doesn't feel like you're a sort of isolated individual. It feels like it's normal. But it doesn't always feel to me when I'm going around industry events that it is normal, because this is an inspirational quote, well, I suppose it wasn't a quote, anecdote from Stella Creasy MP. Did anybody go to the Advertising Association Lead earlier this year? So it was a big sort of summit for senior people in the industry. And she said there's a sort of dysmorphia that happens almost when men are in a room with women or at an event with women, and they perceive that this is probably based on nothing. I don't know, she didn't say what evidence is based on, so it's probably just completely made up, but the whole audience guffawed with laughter, so I thought it was worth repeating. That when there are 10% of women in the room, men think that that is equal. So they just perceive that there's an equal number, and when there are 30% of women in the room, men feel that they're in the minority. So, and that's just because that's the numbers that we're used to dealing with. And so, interestingly enough, I've used these two very recent examples. I spent last week at the Festival of Media in Rome, and these were I took pictures of these two panels at the Festival of Media. So they had, in each case, 5 men on the panel, moderated by a man. And to me, that just glares out. I just think, look at those identical people. How are we going to get a real variety? How are we going to get a variety of opinion? How are we going to get, probably, I can't see from there, but it doesn't look like they're doing very well on ethnic mix either. So I then went and counted up how many women were speaking. So being generous, there are 12 sessions which had any woman at all, and generally that was one. And there were 69 sessions at the festival with no women at all, just man after man after man. So you just think, well, that doesn't feel like critical mass. Even if we've got there in the industry, unfortunately, it is not a fair representation standing on stages and in public fora. And this is campaign from last week. So unfortunately, these kind of things just leap off the page at me now. I can't ignore them because so Private View is all men, the media question, they asked 4 men, and the global viewpoint and the tech viewpoint. I don't think I've ever seen a single woman in either of those two articles, global viewpoint and tech viewpoint, ever since it's been going. And so I don't think everybody is counting. I think I've got slightly obsessive, but it just is, and the thing is, Campaign is definitely trying. So this is not Campaign trying to, belittle women and put them in a box. They are actively trying to represent more women. And there are all sorts of complicated reasons which I explored in that article as to why it's happening. But frankly, it's just not good enough. Okay, so that's the women in our industry. It's a problem, and there are all sorts of stats that say diverse boards are more effective boards. So this is it's not just about fairness, it's about commercial success as well. What about women in ads? So let's just have a look at that. Well, actually, women are extremely well represented in ads. I haven't counted up the way I have in Campaign articles, but generally, there are plenty of women in advertising, and women are very important, all sorts of groups of women, very important target audiences. But unfortunately, the problem here is we're very narrowly represented in the roles that we play. So we tend to be boxed into these different areas. And this is not meant to be particularly critical of these ads because, in every single ad, in every campaign, you have to decide who you're targeting. In beauty, you're going to be presenting, probably an idealized version of what women want to look like. So, this is not meant to be critical of any of them. This is about the cumulative effect of all of this stuff together. So, women either be a sex object, like in that Peroni ad, or very often in a domestic setting. Very hard for women to break out of a domestic setting. How often do you see a woman business leader in advertising? That's a Tesco ad. This is a particular favourite, and apologies if anybody's from that agency, but it's the G-Tech ad. It's really quite a fun thing about women dancing with vacuum cleaners. And you can see that woman at the end is the stupid woman because she hasn't got the cordless G-Tech, she's got the old-fashioned one. So but I just think, why are they all women? Do men not vacuum as well? Do they not keep their houses? Of course they do. But and they obviously decided at some point, we need some men in this. So, men are dancing around, but in a very sort of, background role. It's women who are front and central. Very often women are playing a nurturing role. That's from the rather fabulous, proud sponsor of Mums campaign that P&G did. But again, women being positioned to that role. Or they'll be in the ad, but they'll be in a very supporting they're playing a supporting character. So that was a Cadbury's ad. It's great. I don't know if you've seen it, where they're all dancing around on the chairs. I really like it. I would love it if they had either 3 women amongst that 7, or preferably 4 women, and they weren't just hidden in the background. So, just why does it have to be a minority all the time? It's infuriating. And what about all these other roles? These other roles that women play in life. We're not just sex objects or nurturers or obsessed with our domestic environment. There are many, many more roles. But unfortunately, the norm is presented as a man. The norm in business is presented as man. The norm in culture is presented as a man. Now, there is some progress, I'm happy to say, and there is definitely some progress, and this is a problem for men as well, because, very often men are not presented, allowed to be nurturing in advertising, and this is a real issue for us, but there is some progress. So that's a Volkswagen ad where you show, a very caring dad looking after his daughter, and that is a rather fabulous Coleman's ad where he's an inexpressive dad, his daughter's just broken up with her partner, and the only way he knows how to communicate with her is to cook her a nice shepherd's pie, and that's how he expresses love for her. And I think that's a really lovely insight about the sort of inarticulacy of some fathers and difficulty in talking about emotional subjects with their daughters. Absolutely beautiful. So I think it shows the creative possibilities. If you do break the boundaries and start to, challenge the stereotypes, then good things can happen. And here, of course, Kim, we're very lucky to have Kim Gehrig here with us today. She's going to talk about that brilliant ad, I hope. Are you, Kim?
Yes. Yeah.
And that was this is quite fun for Premier Foods for their deli box range that McCann did, and it just pokes fun at the archetypes. So it has all these women doing their different challenging activities, and they don't have enough time, so therefore deli box is the answer. But I love the fact that woman's carrying 3 or is it 4 babies. She's not just got 1, she's got 4, and they're charging down the street doing. So I think at least if you're going to show a stereotype, do it with a bit of humour. So why are the roles that women in advertising are portraying in advertising so narrowly defined? Well, I think there's a very, very strong connection with the fact that the creative departments are the places where there is the widest disparity between women and men. So the numbers are, if you look at that, 77% of traditional creative roles are played by men. And it's not that men are fantastic creatives. It's just that you don't get the full breadth if you just have predominantly men. And I remember when I was a suit in an agency, it's the creatives who dictate. They're the ones who decide what good is. And if all of them are men, then it's their version of good. And a lot of time it's fabulous, but you're just not getting enough variety. Why is it a problem? Well, it's a problem for clients. It's a problem not getting enough diversity. But the real reason it's a problem is because it's stifling creativity. So, and why is that even a problem? Who cares about creativity? Because we know from years and years of IPA effectiveness awards the absolutely strong link between creativity and effectiveness. Creative ads are proven in all sorts of ways to be more effective than not. So this is why it is so worth us doing that. This is not just a nice to have. It's not about women whinging. It is about our industry will be better if there are more women in the creative department, if we think beyond the stereotypes. And also it'd be much more enjoyable. Wouldn't it be good to see more ads like, This Girl Can out in the industry? Right, end of lecture. Thank you.
Yeah.